Okay, Adam, thank you first off for stopping off with us to have a little chat. Before we go anywhere then, just tell people what it is you do before we get the conversation going.
Essentially, well, first off, thanks for having me on. It's a Thursday night. You're making me miss some American football, which we talked about, before we started the show, or had me come on, and how big of a fan I am. So, you're taking away from that. So this must be a really big deal, which I will say it is for coming on this show, as I believe it is my first international appearance, or the first time being on an international podcast. So thanks a lot, guys, for having me on. And I'll jump right into the answer with, essentially I handle a lot of public relations, social media, and athlete personality branding and building. It's just one aspect of what I do, but for the most part, when it comes to Poster Boy Fighters, the management company that I work with and represent, that's the key aspect for me, and that's my goal, is to help younger athletes, athletes that have been fighting for quite some time now, but just haven't quite grasped the idea or the handle on social media, getting their personality, branded out there for the fans and just the general public. So it helps elevate not just their in-cage performance, for instance, with mixed martial arts, but also their presence outside the cage.
And that is a kind of key role to play, I think, because obviously when you're in the cage, a guy or a female could only get potentially up to 15 minutes of exposure of their fighting skills, but on a social media, that's a daily thing, a way they can interact with fans and public. It's a much more full-time thing than the 15 minutes in the cage. So with that itself, do you then have to cater each person, because everyone's got their own kind of quirks and personalities? Do you have to then kind of work with them on that and maybe, not to try to change it, but just kind of cater for that kind of person then?
Oh, most definitely. That's a really good question, because a lot of people, I assume, would think that, I use a format, which I don't. The format gets built within, like you said, that the individual personality that comes out of that athlete. Whoever they are, that's what I focus on individually. And, an athlete might have the same sponsor or, the same, wearing the same brand as another one, but it's not just because that's the format that we like to do, or I like to do, in sense. It is each, personality. We have to come up with a marketing idea in terms of, say, social media, the best way for each individual athlete to get their own personality out there and branded, recognized. These are things that, takes a little bit of time, but I find myself fairly decent at it, I guess you could say. I've helped quite a few athletes in my day, it's just some of it's trial and error. You never know, right? With each and every person, it's different, like you said, but you never go into a different situation with the same approach. It's always a clear scratch board, and then you start drawing out what needs to be done, the highs and lows, or the plus and minuses of each athlete's personality characteristics. Comes out, and you have to be really honest, otherwise you're cheating not only yourself but that athlete as well.
So how then do you get into this position? It's a very particular role, it's a very particular set of skills, I'd say, to have to help people in that kind of aspect of the social media and how to handle them. It's not something everyone would do. So how did you get into that?
I think I can't say for sure 100%, but I think it's just the path, the direction that I just generally fell into. With my two partners, they have 15 years combined experience, if not more now. Combined, like I said, and not only managing athletes but matchmaking and the whole fight scene, where I have very minimal in comparison by myself. So I think what they needed at that point in time, or the athletes needed that they were representing, was someone to actually take this on and build upon that, and from there it's elevated to what it is today. And of course, with everything, there's always still lots of room to grow and new ideas that just have to come out, and different marketing ideas and plans and all this stuff that to the common person it might not make a lot of sense to, but for me it's like saying good morning every morning. So it's just something that I'm always constantly thinking about. And, not just with fighters too. I work with personalities, outside the fight game as well. So it's very diverse and it's very interesting. Keeps me busy, keeps me focused, and, it's different, I think. I'm not sure how many companies actually go out and do this, with mixed martial arts, for instance, but it's something that I like to focus on. It's something that I think that, like I said, I do fairly well at, based off of trial and error at some points, but at other some points, it's very rewarding when you're just bang dead on with a specific athlete and you see something like flourish to the point, where it's now something bigger.
No, it is key that if they can flourish, and I think the key about that is for people who maybe aren't on social media a lot either. They might not. They might have maybe a Facebook, or they might have just that itself, and they might have it very. They don't put a lot on there. They don't post a lot. They won't realize how much it helps their career in a sense of building that fan base, building that following, and it helps market themselves to companies in a way, because if you can get yourself. Let's say 10,000 followers on Facebook, 10,000 followers on Instagram, Twitter, whatever bloody social media is out there. Everything they do actually by getting each follower actually adds value to them as a fighter, and it does help them in many ways, which they probably don't realise at the time. And it's also, I think, social media is huge for the sport of MMA, because you need to get out there the sport itself to the public. So. I think it's very clever what you are doing in that sense, the way that you look after the fighters on that aspect. And like you say, I don't know that many companies that do it either. So what you are doing is a very niche market, and it's a very clever thing.
Yeah, I think it's important because sometimes you can be a fan of somebody's fighting, but the person themselves, they can appear quite drab sometimes. I mean, the obvious one was. Rory McDonald. I liked his fighting, but the personality of himself, I wasn't a fan of. Not until I saw him on Joe Rogan podcast. Mm. And then I realised I liked the guy. I thought it's just that he doesn't put himself out there. And once he got warmed into the podcast and started talking about himself, he was actually a really interesting guy. It's just that he wasn't putting himself out there to be recognised, sort of thing. Mm.
Right. Maybe it was just, for some people, I can't say for him specifically because I don't know him, but maybe for some people it's just a fear of something, of being rejected, or maybe it's a not knowing how, or, going the right way about it. But you see people blitz on social media and no results. You see someone casually just post from day to day, maybe once a week, and then instant results, so I guess it is... it just depends.
I found that if you're a female, and I found that you somehow get a lot more interest on social media than you do if you're a male.
I think it's the way they type.
Yeah, I think it is the way they type. It's really strange. I know on Instagram, women get a lot more followers than men.
In fact, they don't need to type.
No, they don't need to type. It's really strange. They post a picture and suddenly they get a lot of interest. It's really weird.
I think it's really good that they get the backing.
It is. They get everyone backing them.
Right.
Yeah.
I prefer it when they get the front in.
Equal opportunities. But no, it is tough. Like on the social media side, like you say, you're right. You could spend all day just going and typing and nothing, and then like you say, a woman could just post one thing and they get a lot more attention.
Having said that, Ronda's been getting a lot of love lately.
She has, yeah.
I'm not reading that wrong.
Now, Adam, so can you tell us about maybe some of the guys that you've got I say look after, let's say, or the guys that are linked in with yourselves, and just so people might know who you're dealing with, because you could say you look after fighters, but you could be looking after Joe Bloggs from down the road who's had no fights. Can you give some names to us of guys that have fought recently or even coming up to fight, so people can maybe jump on to follow them?
All right, so first off, I just wanted to say that I got two partners that work out of Missouri on a daily basis. Two respectable guys that I am very proud to say that I work with, again, every day. I've learned a lot from them both, and I continue to learn every day. As in terms of athletes, collectively, we work with UFC athlete James Krause. UFC athlete Zach Cummings. Tim Elliott, who was in the UFC, is now the flyweight champion for an amazing promotion titled Titan Fighting Championship. Which is on UFC Fight Pass. And they have an event coming up, which I'll get to in about half a minute. But some of the athletes that I've just recently fought, we work with one amateur athlete. It's a female athlete, Serena De Jesus. She's out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And she fought in Utah for the South Valley Slam event. Walked away with a really tough unanimous decision. Improved to 3-0. She's about maybe 1 or 2 more fights away from turning pro. We had a veteran fight on the same weekend on Saturday night. He walked away with his win. So that was great for Shamrock FC, another great promotion out of Kansas City. We have some fighters coming up on a Kansas City Fighting Alliance card, December 5th. And then, of course, we have some athletes on the Titan Fighting Championship card, December 18th on UFC Fight Pass. So, it's going to be great. Tim Elliott's going to be defending his title on that Titan card. Some new up-and-comers, a kid named Jason Witt, who's really talented. Anthony Gutierrez, Sharkbait Gutierrez is going to be on that card. It's going to be an outstanding card, just the one that you have to catch. And if you don't have UFC Fight Pass, sign up. Even 5 days prior to, you get it for free for the 7 days. Watch that event. I guarantee you'll be hooked. And, of course, watch out for those poster boy fighters.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. When we push Fight Pass down everyone's throat.
Yeah. Nobody cancels it, do they?
Yeah, it's one of them. It's
when you go on a diet if you're short of money, don't you? Before you cancel your Fight Pass.
It's not even that expensive for what you get.
No.
It's absolutely addictive, and you know what?
And it gives you a library that
like you say, they've got a Titan card, and again, we work with Titan FC. They've got an absolute stellar record, and Jeff has he's doing some great work with that promotion, and the link that they've got with the Fight Pass thing, it just really does add to the exposure the fighters getting. Like you say, Tim Elliott, do you know what?
Definitely, I think
Tim Elliott's great to watch. Love
watching.
Like his last,
very entertaining.
Yeah, we love watching Tim fight. His past few fights on Titan have been awesome to watch. He's been so impressive. Yeah, we're big fans of him, and we've had him on. The podcast, great guy to talk to. I was a bit taken back when he got his hair cut, though. I kind of like that caveman look that he had.
Yeah, him bouncing around inside the cage, kind of gave that animal from the Muppets type of thing playing the drums, that kind of image for me. Hey, maybe he'll be able to see a little bit better, and maybe, instead of having the hair in his face, he can focus a little bit more and not having to brush it away. So, to each his their own, I guess. But yeah, as a fan, it was exciting to watch.
Yeah. I can't see the flyweights at that speed anyway.
One last shout out before I head off. I'd like to give a shout out to a non-athlete that I work with, someone that you're going to get to talk to in a little bit. But a guy named Front Row Brian, I work with him on a daily basis. I help him with, certain things behind the scenes. So I just like to give a shout out to that guy. And if you're listening and you're ready to tune in, this is the guy that you want to listen to. I'm just here as the warm up or the intro guy. But Front Row Brian is the show, the icon, and he's got a lot of good stuff going on too. So that's all I have to say about that.
He is. He's got his own podcast with Filthy Tom Lawley's. Yeah, he's an awesome dude. Looking forward to getting him on. Well, before you do go, how can if I say for example, if I'm I'm a fighter and I'm interested in having you to maybe look, talk about negotiating, maybe working together, etc. Or how can people do that if they want some help?
They can follow me on Twitter. My handle is AdamMPR, and then obviously my email amartin MARTIN @posterboyfighters.com. I'll hit you back right away or as soon as I can. Normally within a half hour to the next day, if I'm not too busy. But I'm generally pretty open to negotiate or talk or whatever it may be. If you have a question, even just throw it my way. I'm more than open to answer it the best I can and the best of my ability.
And he does work with top athletes, as you heard before, so you're in good hands if you get to speak to Adam. So we do suggest, if no one has got an agent or anyone is interested in it, drop him a message. We will, as always, put this information on our Facebook page when with a picture of Adam and stuff, and so you can, if you do forget or don't have a pen and paper to hand, it will be on our Facebook page for you all to quickly jot down and use. Okay, and again, Adam, thanks very much for speaking to us, and it's
not a problem.
It was great.
I had a great time.
It was great. It was great to pop your cherry on the international scene. So we'll
It's just a shame for you that it was
with us. I need to go out and have a shot of whiskey and a smoke now.
and enjoy the rest of the games. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. Oh yeah, football too. Can't forget about that. But one little keynote I will throw in there. The first ever episode of the Filthy Front Row. Well, I guess it wasn't the Filthy Front Row Brian show at the time, but the first ever episode of the Front Row Brian show before it came to the Filthy Front Row Brian show with Chael Sonnen as a guest. Special little keynote. I actually produced that show. I was the guy running, listening in, doing the edits and stuff like that, and then I switched roles, gave it to someone a lot more experience, and I gave it to somebody. I got told that I was giving it to somebody else. But
it got better. It got better after the first one.
The shows turned out great.
So it got better after the first one. Thank you for that, but Adam, have a great day. Enjoy your evening, and again, thanks for coming on, buddy.